Okay. Just a few thousand more people to go. We'll make our way around the whole room. Hello. I just want to say that as somebody who loves unions, it's great to be here amongst a whole bunch of people who love unions right across Canada. Et puis, je suis très content de vous accueillir ici au Manitoba, une des communautés dans l'ouest du Canada où il y a beaucoup de francophones et qui lance un message que la francophonie à Canada, oui, le Québec est central, mais il y a beaucoup de participants dans toutes les régions de notre pays. I also just wanted to react to a bit of what was being discussed on the floor earlier. And I do this with humility, recognizing that there is some diversity of opinion in the room. But I just wanted to let you know a few things about our government here in Manitoba. The first thing we did after we won government is that we cut the provincial gas tax to zero to put money back in the pockets of working people. What we're doing this year on Canada Day is we're taking all the sales tax, all the provincial tax off of all food and drink from grocery stores in Manitoba to put money back in the pockets of working families like the people you represent. And today, we have intervened at the Supreme Court in the matter of UR Pride against the government of Saskatchewan, standing up to say that trans people should not be targeted by a government using the notwithstanding clause in our Constitution. That's what it's all about. And the reason why I wanted to put those three things together is because I want to call out people on the right wing who target vulnerable minorities. We're cutting the gas tax. We're cutting the tax on groceries. Conservative leaders in other parts of the country haven't done the same thing. And we're also a government that stands with trans people and other vulnerable minorities. So if you love tax cuts, if you want your life to be more affordable, I want someone who believes in the right wing to explain to me how cutting taxes has anything to do with attacking LGBT people. Because it doesn't. And the only time they bring out the anti-trans and the only time they bring out the anti-LGBT is when their polling numbers are going down. So whose game are you playing into? You're playing into the game of the rich billionaires who own tech companies, who have funded Donald Trump, are targeting our kids, and are making a killing off of working people fighting each other instead of fighting a system that is keeping the working person down. And I would say that's my message for the right wing, you know. We'll still be friends. Well, my message to the left wing is, why do you oppose steps to make life more affordable for the average person out there? This party that I'm a part of, the NDP, was founded in Western Canada to give voice to farmers and to union members. And as far as I understand, helping people keep more of their hard-earned money should be part of our program. And so I think when we come to the political consensus that has dominated politics in Canada for far too long, it's time for us to move forward. We can call out what's going on the right wing. It's very, very toxic and damaging. We see what's happening in the United States of America. But the left wing and the center left have to get our act together as well, too, because we have to speak to working people. And the single greatest threat against climate change is if we lose a generation of blue-collar Canadians because they don't think that a climate plan is going to be something that they can afford. So we have to do better. And that's what our government has set out to do here in Manitoba, to say, you know what? This is the government that is going to cut your taxes and make your life more affordable. And by the way, we're going to make sure that a clean, safe, and healthy environment is one that your family will be able to afford to participate and be a part in. Because whether you're worried about global warming and climate change, or whether you just want to go to Bass Pro Shops and then go out on the side-by-side this weekend, every single person in Canada loves the great outdoors and loves the environment. So let's focus on uniting people instead of these conflicts which keep us divided. That's our message. In my speaking notes, it says one of the questions I was asked to consider here is, what does it look like when an NDP premier builds the future with union labor? I got a simple answer. It means we don't legislate people back to work. That's what you get with an NDP government. We've done a lot for the building trades, and I'm so proud of the building trades here in Manitoba for all the efforts, the fight that they've shown, the organizing, which has really, really galvanized attention. And here in Manitoba, we moved the apprenticeship ratio to 1-to-1 to make it safer for people to become a journey person. We've brought enforcement into the health and safety conversation so that when we say we're tough on crime, we're not just talking about somebody who's out on the street doing some nonsense. We're also talking about the corporate criminals who are turning a profit amidst unsafe working conditions. And of course, we've brought in a framework called the Manitoba Jobs Agreement, which is the Manitoba homemade version of making sure that we build big projects like expanding the Trans-Canada, building schools, building the Port of Churchill, that we're going to do it with unionized labor, paying unionized wages, with unionized pensions and unionized health and safety rules. And so it's been great. We've also I love the building trades. Like I said, I love unions. J'aime les syndicats. Puis, we also brought in card check at 50% plus one to make it easier for these unions and others to be able to organize. We heard a lot about union busting when we were in opposition, and so this is one of the first things we did. And then the thing that I think our team is most proud of is we brought in the strongest anti-scab legislation anywhere in Canada, right here in Manitoba. And you know Kevin Rebeck, my good friend from the Manitoba Federation of Labor. We have a great relationship. And he's such like a positive guy with an infectious laugh, and he always wants to do things in an approachable way. He was coaching me when we were doing the anti-scab. He said, you got to say replacement workers. So I say replacement workers because we don't want to scare people off. Our message has to be for everybody. And I tried my hardest, but then I did. I did try. But you know what? My mom used to say, back in the 80s, when I was a little kid in northwestern Ontario and the people at the pulp plant were on strike, she didn't say replacement workers. She said scab. And so that's why to this day I say our legislation is anti-scab. And it's great. Et puis avec le plus de respect de nos amis au Québec, notre loi ici au Manitoba est le plus fort dans tous les pays. And with all our respect to the efforts to get anti-scab at the federal level and in British Columbia, our law is the gold standard. And so it's a friendly challenge to other jurisdictions to try and meet the enhanced bar that we're happy to be pushed towards, nudged perhaps by our friends in the House of Labour. Because it's simple, right? If you exercise your constitutional right to strike, nobody should be able to steal your job. And that's what we're standing up for here in Manitoba. And like I said, if you look at what's happening south of the border, you talk about the unionized workers in Canada, what is the biggest threat to us right now? It's Donald Trump, right? These tariffs that Donald Trump has put into place, the complete disregard for the average working person, it's really, really damaging. The cost of living, the price of gas, because he had something to prove. We're dealing with the impacts of the war in Iran. It's hugely challenging. But as much as I could, make fun of the guy all day, when he loses the next election, because he's not allowed to run again or whatever it is, the thing that working people in this side of the border across North America need to keep in mind is that even when Trump leaves, Trumpism will remain. And it is being bankrolled by a group of the wealthiest people who've ever existed on planet Earth. And they care only about enhancing their own wealth. And one of the really nasty ways that these folks like, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Sam Altman and Dario Amodei and others have, sorry, I'm distracted. I see a Montreal jersey here. A Habs jersey. I gotta say, we love the Winnipeg Jets. We love the Winnipeg Jets. We will always love the Winnipeg Jets. But God, I hope a Canadian team wins the Stanley Cup. So I won't go that far. I won't go that far. So the point that I'm making is that these social media companies have more money than God. And right now, all of us, we could probably improve our mental health by chilling out on the social media a little bit. But what we're really concerned about is our kids. When our kids are little, their brains are still developing. They haven't had the experience about building judgment and resilience. And these algorithms, these AI platforms are targeting them. They're exploiting the dopamine reward system in our kids' brains to get them hooked on screen time. And so that's why in Manitoba, we are taking the step of banning social media and AI chatbots for people under 16 years of age. It's one way that we can take back control of our kids' education, take back control of our kids' socialization, and hopefully, in the long term, start to take back control of our democracy. And so we're picking a fight with some of the biggest corporations on earth. And I like people who fight for their rights, and so that's kind of the approach that we take here in Manitoba. And by the way, I know a lot of parents try to police the kids' screen time. And, when you're there, like, you got to get off that thing. And kids like, why? Well, very soon in Manitoba, you'll be able to see, it's not me, it's the Premier. But no, we use these platforms to communicate. I'm sure everybody is posting and interacting. So they do have a place in our society. But the fact that they have embodied a part of our economy that has been completely unregulated. Meanwhile, you look at mining, you look at oil and gas, you look at schools, every other workplace that we go to, it has a regulatory structure. to keep workers safe and also to keep kids safe. And so what we're saying here in Manitoba is in reaction to like the unfettered impacts that we've seen from these platforms, it's time to rein them in. And to bring it back to where we started, I think this can only mean good things for the labor movement in Canada. If I were to look forward to the future of the labor movement in Canada, I would say, and I'd say this with humility, that we need to find a way to respond to the digital economy and to respond to social media, to look at gig workers, and to look at these massive platforms that are either looking at us as a gig worker or as a source of data to sell to advertisers. And what is the role of collective organizing, collective bargaining, and collective action within that future? To me, this is one of the fundamental questions for unions and for government to start to focus on. And why I say that that brings us back to where we started is because you have this group of rich people who, with the turn of a dial, metaphorically speaking, influence what you see and what your neighbor sees. And instead of having a conversation about getting decent pay and raises for workers, they get people to argue about trans rights. Instead of having a conversation about taxing the wealthy in our society so that you can give tax cuts to the blue-collar person, they want you to have a conversation about racism and immigration. And instead of having workers come together and demand better from the lobbyist class that wraps itself around whatever government of the day there is in Ottawa, they want communities to fight rural versus urban. And that's how it plays out in Western Canada. And so what we're saying is, let's take a step back. Because whether you live in the country or you live in the city, I know you want us to protect our kids. And whether you're on this side or that side of the cultural divide, I know that you want working people to take a step forward. And whether you are somebody who is going to wear the rainbow flag, or you're somebody who maybe doesn't understand what is going on when people talk about gender identity, I believe that you want justice and fairness and equality for every single Canadian in this beautiful country. So let's focus on bringing people together. Let's focus on unity. Let's focus on organizing as well. And we have a very, very strong example here in Manitoba that I want to share with you folks before I wrap up. In the last election, our opponents launched these very, very nasty ads. Some of them were about trans kids, but some of them were against searching the landfill. So people who may not be familiar with this, there were 4 Indigenous women in our province who were targeted by a serial killer. One of the worst criminals. We locked him up, convicted him. He's going to rot behind bars, as he should. That happened under our government, for the record. But our opponents in the last election said they wouldn't search the landfill for the remains of these women. And they used all sorts of different rationale. Said, oh, it wasn't safe, or it's not possible, or it's too expensive. It's going to cost $184 million. We ended up searching the landfill, the highest health and safety standards, including for mental health. We succeeded in bringing these women home so that their families could have funerals for their loved ones. And we just closed the books, financially speaking, on the landfill search, and it cost $18.4 million, meaning it was only 1/10 the cost of what our opponents said. So why do I still talk about this? Because what our opponents in this province did is probably one of the nastiest things that's ever happened in Canadian politics. Like if I told you that a party ran attack ads attacking the families of the victims of a serial killer, like you probably wouldn't believe it. But that's what happened. The big freeways heading to southwestern Winnipeg suburbs huge billboards alongside them. That's what went on in the last election campaign. But the thing that I am most proud of, and the reason why I tell you that story here today, isn't to dwell on the negativity. It's to tell you that the people of Manitoba saw that message of negativity and division. And you know what they said on Election Day 2023? They rejected that. They said, that is not who we are as Manitobans. That is not who we are as Canadians. And even if I don't understand the landfill issue, that's not what's going to decide my vote. What's going to decide my vote is who's got the best plan on health care, who's got the best plan on the cost of living, and who's got the best plan on building up a province that I want to live in for the future generations of my family. And so I'm very, very proud of the people of Manitoba for coming together in that way. And I do believe that it offers a path forward for the labor movement, for progressives, for Canadians who just want some common sense in our politics. You can put a message forward that is focused on the things that affect people's lives, like being able to access a family doctor. By the way, within 3 years, we went from the worst access to a family doctor to the best access in the entire country here in Manitoba to a family doctor. You could put forward a plan to save people money when they go to the grocery store or when they go to fill up their vehicles at the gas station. And by the way, you can also put in an incentive for EVs and tell people, yeah, make the climate choice if you want to, but we're not going to shame you if you're just driving to work and you're part of the real world. And this is my call for unity, is that we move forward as people who want to help the average person. The rich people have their influence. The big businesses have their lobbyists. What does the average person have? How does the average person get their voice heard? How does the average person out there make a positive change, whether it's in their workplace, in their neighborhood, in their provincial legislature, or in their federal parliament? It's union power, and it's also the ballot box. So let's work together as a labor movement and as a political movement to bring about a real change for people in this country. Anyway, I just mainly wanted to see how this thing here I'm taking notes. So I get fired up about this stuff, but it's because I just think there's nonsense in politics everywhere. You're telling me that in order to have cheaper gas, I have to hate a gay child? No. No, absolutely not. You're telling me that in order to have a balanced budget, I need to be against immigration? No, absolutely not. But the same is true on the left with orthodoxies. You're telling me that if I live in the real world where I have to drive to work with an internal combustion engine, that I'm not a true progressive and I'm not down for the cause? No. So let's just cut out all the orthodoxy, let's focus on real people, let's focus on real change, and let's present a unified vision that all of Canada can believe in. Miigwech, merci. Thank you very much.